rebound. Antacid sales top $10 billion annually. Antacid sales top $10 billion in sales annually. That's billion with a B, and that's just in the United States. About 100 million Americans experience heartburn every month, and 15 million battle it at least once a day. So, somebody goes to an MD and they're presenting with heartburn. The MD doesn't know what causes the heartburn. The MD thinks that it's just, a matter of time until something goes wrong in the stomach. That the human body is just a bag filled with biochemicals. There is no soul force. There is no vital force. There is no inherent pranic intelligence which resides inside the body, and everything is just a random haphazard accumulation of biochemicals which is bound to fail. So eventually, somebody's body starts making too much stomach acid. Now, I've asked physiologists for the last 30 years, what is the physiological mechanism which allows a human body to produce too much stomach acid? Nobody can tell me the answer to that question, except by leaning on the old saw, well, it must be genetic. We just haven't discovered that gene yet, though. Nonsense. But the MD thinks that heartburn is caused by too much stomach acid, and so they prescribe antacids or proton pump inhibitors, the intention of which are to completely eliminate the body's ability to produce stomach acid. Well, stomach acid is a vital step in the digestion of food. Stomach acid is a vital step in the digestion of food. Digestion starts in the mouth with your teeth and your saliva. Your teeth break the food down into smaller particles than you put on your fork or your spoon. The food mixes with saliva, which starts the process of chemical digestion, and then you swallow it. The food drops into your stomach, which is basically a big bag of acid. And if you are healthy, the acid in your stomach is extremely strong. The acid in your stomach is so strong that if you were to cut your finger off and swallow it, your stomach acid would digest it down to the bone. Digest it down to the bone. Your stomach acid is extremely acidic when you are healthy. So in a healthy person, the food goes into the stomach and it's turned into a liquid. The solid stuff that your teeth just pounded up into smaller pieces are now liquefied. And then the liquefied food passes from the stomach into your small intestine, where it is absorbed into the bloodstream. And that's how the body becomes nutrified. But the body needs more than just calories and sugar and protein in order to make it through the day. The body needs 90 essential nutrients. The body needs calcium. The body needs magnesium and zinc and sulfur and silica and vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Well, maybe not F. No vitamin F yet that I'm aware of. So we eat food in order to extract the raw materials that the body needs in order to make it through the day and to function the way that God intended it to. And the digestive process is like a series of dominoes, one toppling the next over. Now, as any domino enthusiast will tell you, if you remove one of the dominoes in the domino string, all the dominoes downstream from the domino that you removed don't become affected. And so it goes with the human digestive process. So you present with heartburn. The MDs assume that this is caused by too much stomach acid, but they are completely incapable of telling you the physiological process which caused your stomach to make too much acid in the first place. They just throw up their hands and say, I don't know, c'est la vie, that's life. And they recommend you take a prescription medication or an over-the-counter medication, which used to be a prescription medication, in order to suppress your body's ability to produce or secrete stomach acid. And so now that big bag of acid in your stomach dries up. So what happens now? Well, there's no more heartburn, right? Because there's no acid anything in the stomach. So here's what happens. You put a piece of food in your mouth, you chew it up. Your teeth chop it down into smaller pieces, and it mixes with the saliva in your mouth, which starts the chemical digestion process. You swallow that lump of food, and the food goes into the stomach. Plop, plop, no fizz, fizz. The food just sits there in the stomach because it is unable to be chemically digested because there's no more acid in the stomach. So now the food, which is supposed to be turned into a liquid, remains a solid. And there's no digestion that happens to it, and then that solid particle of food passes from the stomach into the small intestine. And as the small intestine tries to deal with this, it's like trying to deal with a foreign invader. It's something that it doesn't expect. It's something that ought to be there. Shouldn't ought to be there. But there it is, tumbling through the intestinal tract, a solid mass of partially digested food that is supposed to be in a liquid form, but it's in a solid form. And as it passes through the small intestine, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that it's going to cause mechanical harm. But the bigger harm here is, remember, it's supposed to be a liquid. Why is it supposed to be a liquid? Because the tissue in the small intestine's job is to absorb the liquid. It can't absorb a solid. Your intestinal tract cannot absorb solids. You know, it's like you can't absorb a solid. It can only absorb a liquid, but the food's not liquid. It's in a solid form, so guess what happens? That great big lobster lunch that you just ate, that great big T-bone steak, that great big vegan hamburger is undigested, and so it passes through the intestinal tract, and the body pulls very little, if any, nutrition from the food. You can pull a little bit out of it because there is a little bit of chemical digestion that happens through pancreatic acid and bile in the small intestine. So a little bit happens, but not a lot. So the more of antacids that you take and the more proton pump inhibitors that you take, the greater are your nutrient deficiencies.